God bless you, my brothers and sisters. We are continuing in our series that we have labeled Unlikeness, and we're looking at the things that God hates from Proverbs chapter 6. We are in week 6 of that series. Again, we're looking at Proverbs chapter 6, verses 19, the A clause. And Sunday named the word that gave us our spine for the sermon. And that spine was centered around the phrases or the terms breath and bench. What it did not have time to ask is a harder question that sits beneath both of those. Why does false testimony work on people who should know better? Tonight, we're going after the mechanics, after the answer to that question, not a recap. Proverbs 6, verse 19, the A clause, Solomon calls out a false witness who breathes out lies. And one detail that's worth sitting with that Sunday moved past quickly is that this is the second time that lying appears on Solomon's list. Verse 17 has already named the lying tongue. Verse 19 does it again, but it does it differently. A writer as careful as Solomon does not repeat an item by accident. Something has changed between the two appearances, and finding what changed is the actual work tonight. So let's go deeper. Here's why it works. This is the question that Sunday never had room to ask. Why does a false witness succeed? Not morally, but mechanically. A lie told by a stranger with no credibility usually fails. So the false witness of Proverbs 6:19 is not really targeting the person they're lying about. They are targeting the room, counting on something true about how people process claims under pressure. Confidence delivered without hesitation gets believed faster than careful speech because hesitation reads as doubt, but confidence reads as knowledge. This is why Deuteronomy required 2 to 3 witnesses before any serious charge could stand. It's a detail that Sunday used to explain the law's severity, but never asked why the number mattered. One confident voice can be wrong without knowing it. Two independent voices agreeing by coincidence is rare enough to trust. The law is not only protecting against malice, it's protecting against the fact that one sincere person can still be convincingly mistaken. And that changes how you read your own habits, because the deeper danger is not only the witness who lies knowing it, it is the witness who has rehearsed a version of events so often that it stopped feeling like interpretation and started feeling like memory. And by the time they speak it, they're not lying in any way that they would recognize. Solomon's word for breathing then fits exactly. No effort, because the version exhaled has already been believed by the person who's breathing out the lie. A lie does not need a liar who knows that they're lying. It only needs someone who stopped checking whether what they remember is what actually happened. That's why it works. Here's why it spreads. The second question that Sunday didn't have room for is, why does false testimony travel faster than correction? Each time a claim is repeated, even with disclaimers, it becomes more familiar. And familiarity gets mistaken for credibility by people who never check the original source. The 10th person to hear it cannot distinguish a well sourced concern from something invented 3 rooms ago. They only know it feels like something that everyone already knows. This is why correcting a false witness is so much harder than producing one. The false witness only has to plant the seed once. The correction has to reach every row that the seed has been sown into individually after the soil has already settled. And that's exactly why the witness stand existed in the first place, to stop the claim before it could start spreading rather than to try to outrun it afterward. The reason that the law guarded the witness stand so carefully was never about punishing liars after the fact. It was about understanding that a lie believed by a room could not be fully unbelieved later, no matter how good the correction is. So before you close out your screen tonight, I want you to think of one claim that you repeated about another person recently, something you did not personally witness, but passed along because it felt true. Ask yourself honestly whether you checked it or whether it simply arrived sounding confident enough that checking felt unnecessary. Name that to God, not to fix it yet, just to see clearly which kind of witness you've actually been. The spirit of truth does not need to outrun a lie the way a human correction does, because he's not arriving after the fact to repair the room. He's already been present in it, bearing witness to what is actually so before the false word ever finished traveling. Hear your questions for reflection tonight as we prepare to wrap up this time together. Your observation question: when I think about claims that I have repeated about people recently, how often did I verify them before passing them along versus simply trusting how confident they sounded? Your diagnosis question: is there a specific version of events that I have rehearsed so many times in my head that I stopped being able to tell whether I'm remembering it or I've simply convinced myself of it? Final question is your question of invitation. If correction travels slower than the original claim, what would it cost me to become someone who slows down before speaking instead of someone who has to be corrected later? My brothers and sisters, this is an imperative lesson for us. It's not about being malicious. It's not about you seeking the harm of another person. It's about slowing down and being honest about what we know to be true before we speak on it. We don't always have to be the first person to have an opinion. We don't always have to be the first person to confirm what someone told us. And if we haven't done the work to confirm the veracity of the statement first, it doesn't need to be breathed out of our mouths. God bless you, my brothers and sisters. I want to commend you to take the time to pray tonight before you end this time together with God. Take a moment and name those things honestly before God before you go to bed tonight. God bless you, and we'll see you on Sunday morning.